Hello, I'm Sabrina. I'm the owner of the Potter's Roost, which is the new pottery studio that's just opened up on Royal Street in Upper Hutt. We've been open just under 2 months now, and I just wanted to tell my story about how I came about making this pottery studio and the special program that I offer as part of my mental health offering that I have for the community of Upper Hutt. And also I wanted to tell you about my journey and how I got here. I started pottery full-time about 6 years ago when I was struggling as a young mum. So I had a little boy who didn't sleep very well. It was taking all of my energy, everything that I had, I was giving to my son, and I was burnt out, I was tired and frustrated, sleep deprived, and my husband actually said to me, do something for you, find some time, carve some time out of the week that is just for you, that doesn't involve being mum. And I wanted to get back into pottery, which I'd done several years previously. And I joined a beginner's class and started learning pottery, and I found that it just felt absolutely right for me at that time. I fell in love with clay, and it became an obsession. So I started planning all of my projects. Every day I was thinking about, what can I make next? And I was planning all of my projects, drawing it all out, making illustrations and designs. I was over designing a bit, so I have that perfectionism in me that I wanted to create this perfect item. So I worked away, and every Thursday I would go to Pottery Club and I would work on my piece. And there are several instances where what came out of the kiln was not what I had envisioned and what I'd hoped to make. And I realised that I'd put so much effort into creating this piece to try and meet my level of perfection, which doesn't always exist, and pottery is very humbling. You can't always meet your expectations, but I found that very frustrating. So I started one day with just a ball of clay, and instead of planning, I actually just sat down and said, what are you? And I just started pulling the clay, just shaping it, just listening to what the clay was telling me instead of me trying to put my impressions into the clay. So there was no intention. I was just shaping the clay, pulling it around, smoothing it out, poking holes in. Just if there was a lump, I would work with it. If there was a groove, I'd just sort of blend into it, make a hole in it. And I found after 2 hours of working with this clay, I actually really thoroughly enjoyed that experience. So I wrapped it up, and then the next week I came back to it and started working on it. And actually over a period of about 6 months, I was still working on the same sculpture, and I referred to it as my doodle. So clay doodles, like you do when you're idly drawing on a piece of paper. It's the same concept. So your brain is disengaged from everything else that's going on in the world, and I was just being present with the clay. And I found that this was actually the best therapy, and I looked forward to it every session that I could, because it was time where I wasn't having to be something for somebody. I was just spending time for myself with the clay. So on the back of that, I then made 5 or 6 sculptures. I called them my doodles, but I've now evolved that into a mindfulness sculpture. And because I got so much out of it, I realised that other people probably could as well. So when I was building the idea for my new pottery studio, I wanted to incorporate a mental health element to my studio. I wanted other people to get the same value out of just being present with the clay. So I had a good think, and I came up with the concept of the Phoenix program. which is very close to my heart. I have a long history of depression, which I have been through. It was about 10 years of undiagnosed, untreated, unmanaged depression, and my life was pretty miserable. And it wasn't until I then did get help, I got medication and counselling, and I discovered clay all around the same time period, that my life totally began to change. And I'm now at the point where I've been doing clay for so long and I'm managing my own mental health that I'm in a unique position where I can help other people, and that means a lot to me, because I don't want anyone to go through what I did for so long without any support, because the support of people around you are really what matters, and that's how you get through the dark times. So what I'm doing with the Phoenix program is running a 4-week course where you have over the space of 4 weeks, we start with a lump of clay, and we start with a grounding session where we are just touching the clay. There's no intention, there is no perfection, there's no right or wrong answer. The concept is just being present with the clay, touching it, smoothing it, feeling the weight, feeling the moisture content, smelling it, and just forgetting everything else, all the noise that's in your head and in the background, and just working with it. It's actually a really lovely meditative process that you go through, because your brain does switch off and you do start to feel a lot calmer, because you're just using your hands. It's very tactile and you're not planning anything. So the concept is, don't try and make a thing. Just do what the clay tells you to do. If it wants to bend this way, make it bend. If it wants to flop, support it or carve a hole through it, and just experience the clay and not try to bend it to your will. So over the course of the 4 weeks, we work through different stages. So we start with the concept of the egg, where you've got your shell, you're very safe and secure inside your shell, and that's where we all start. But the shell cannot grow, you cannot expand when you're still in your shell. So the next lesson we move on to testing and pushing your boundaries. So imagine the shell being broken, and that's where growth happens. When a chick comes out of the egg, it then can grow. So we explore things that we can do in our daily life and within the clay as well, to push our boundaries, reach out, find connections with other people, talk, just be a little bit uncomfortable, but also move forward and help yourself grow. And then we come to the third session, where we have the concept of our feathers. We are all unique people. We all have our own personalities and our things that make us us. And our feathers is just a way of visualizing that. So with the clay is a wonderful medium for adding textures. So with different tools, you can make textures in the clay. No matter what you're feeling, you can add big gouges, or you can just stroke it, or add little tiny pinpoints. The concept is you're just reflecting a little bit of yourself into the clay and into your sculpture. As the sculpture grows, you are adding a lot of yourself whilst you're doing it. And also adding textures is very repetitive. So you get that lovely repetitive action, which is in itself very calming. And then the fourth session, we are finalising, we're finishing up our journey, we're getting ready to take flight. So we are the Phoenix, which is why I named the program the Phoenix Rising from the Ashes. We've been through this process of shaping the clay from our very insular shell all the way up to testing our boundaries, adding our personality to it, and then finalising it as this is a piece that we have created, and we've put a lot of our soul into it. And that's just this nice process over the few weeks, which has been really wonderful to watch. So the students that I have been teaching so far. Actually told me, I had a class this morning, and one lady told me that when she finishes a Phoenix class, she actually feels really relaxed for the rest of the morning after the session, which is heartwarming for me, because it means that I am actually helping somebody, even if it's just a small amount, and even if it's just a few hours where the noise is quiet. That means a lot to me, and that's exactly why I've created the Phoenix program, just because I want to help, and I know that clay is a very powerful medium and that it can do that.